Hi guys, what's up? It's Will back once again for some more fight predictions. We're into a brand new year. Really enjoyed this break, having no fights and just kind of sitting back and really just looking ahead to what's coming and trying to setting some goals maybe for this year and hopefully get back on the horse with being a profitable better this year, because last year didn't turn out to be the greatest year for me betting. But there's this year to try and rebound and make sure we can get back on the horse again and get back into the green and make some money in 2024. This year I'm looking. I feel for the last few years I've taken my eye off my YouTube channel a little bit. I've lost subs and so on. Life has been kind of tough. When you have kids and you move house and you work a lot, it gets hard to really get motivated to do this, especially when you've been on here as long as I have. I've been on here probably longer than anybody. I want to say, I can't even remember what year, it might be year 13, year 12, year 13, I want to say. So a long, long time I've been on here, and to keep the motivation to keep doing it is hard. And especially when you see a lot of really good predictors come through and make great content on YouTube. I love to see it. So there's a lot of more people out there that do this now, and it's actually great to see. But I want to put myself back out there as being one of the originators of making UFC predictions and start to really grow my channel again. So this is why in this year, 2024, I will be having 2 shows a week. I'll be having my prediction show on a Sunday, early Monday morning. It will be coming out, and then on a Thursday, I'll be having another show where I kind of have my concrete picks, how I'm going to be for the year, for the week, sorry, where I'm going to be going maybe with my bets or whatnot. So 2 shows a week, and really try and build my channel back up, because it has dwindled a little bit and it's kind of hurt me a little bit with that. So hopefully you can help me grow the channel, just throwing a like on there, throwing a comment of who you like, sharing if you could, and if you're not subbed, hit that sub button, would be great. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid fight night card, actually, and especially coming off a break. Everyone's amped to get into it, and we're ready to kind of go a little bit. So yeah, I'm kind of going to go back to just me. I'm not bringing up any topology at the end. I might bring that up and clarify my picks, and then I'll give you my plays of the week, who I think are pretty solid plays, and maybe my dog of the week as well. So, and then I'll get through some of your comments at the end. So let me bring up this fight night card. Magomed Ankalaev against Johnny Walker is a main event, a rematch, which happened in Abu Dhabi and kind of ended in kind of bad circumstances last year. We've had some fights fall out, as per usual. I am doing this on the Thursday night, so we're like 10 days out from fight week, so still a couple of weeks till fight night. So I just wanted to get this out early. I wanted to try and do what I did in the past, keep ahead of the game, be really out there early with my predictions, and going from there, and not letting anyone else's kind of content sway a little bit, because sometimes that can happen. There's many great predictors, and I've learned over the years that you can't listen to other people and kind of go with your own self. So starting off, really good fight here, Felipe Benitez against Joshua Van. I don't think there's anybody out there that's been beating the drum for Joshua Van as much as I have. This guy, I said 2 years ago, was a prospect you need to keep an eye on. Really, really, really good prospect, and he's really showed that since he's getting to the UFC. Jumped in very short notice against Zhalga Sumagulov, which I think Felipe Benitez was at one time ready to jump in there and fight him as well. But Joshua Van is just, I love this kid. I think he's so solid. I think he can grow into being a contender at 125. In my opinion, the UFC could do so much more with the UFC flyweight division. There is so many talents out there that they could add to this division to really beef out the top 15, really have like 30 solid fighters, which I don't think they have. They've got a great division. It's one of my favorite divisions in the UFC, but Joshua Van is a guy that I love watching, and I've loved his progression in his last 2 or 3 fights. The fight against Zhalgas, that was a split. Like I said, come in short notice, fought a guy with a lot of UFC experience, a tough guy to face, who always seems to kind of go to a split decision, and got the win there. That's all he really had to do. But then the Borjas fight, I think Borjas is going to win a lot of fights in the UFC. I was thoroughly impressed with him. Kind of from the 3-minute mark of that first round, really long, was landing some shots on Van. Van had to make adjustments going into round 2, round 3, but boy, did he make adjustments. He roasted the body. He was doubling up in his shots, his combination shots, going from body to head, doubling up on some of the strikes up top, and also threw a couple of takedowns in there. And if you watch some of his interviews, he's not really known as a guy that gets predominant takedowns. He says he's only really been wrestling for 6 months, and considering he already had like 6 or so fights, that's a big thing. But the one thing with this fight here is he is coming in very short notice, 2-3 weeks, I want to say, coming off the couch. He did fight in November where he looked good, so I thought he might have taken 2 or 3 months off. We might have seen him back in March, April time. So that's the only worry for me in this fight. I think he's lined as a favourite. I think I'd be comfortable betting this for favourite, and I actually have bet him in a parlay with someone else in this card. Brunno, on the other hand, the first thing I did is I went straight into watching his fights in Russia, because you get a lot of these Brazilian guys that go over there and fight tough Russian opposition, and he really took some L's over there. I think he went 2-3 because he beat Sherbatov. But I thought his losses weren't the worst losses. He was very competitive. I think he's very long. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Borjas with the length, and he can have good, solid low kicks as well as extending the jab out and really catching you with some combination shots as well. But I think he makes too many mistakes in fights that, if, in my opinion, if I value Van as a really good prospect, then I think that he can find the spots here to really move in and kind of win rounds through that with his boxing. I think he's one of the best boxers actually in the UFC. I think he is solid, especially in the division. I think he's one of the best there, but potentially he could be one of the best boxers in the whole UFC. And like I say, he took losses over there in Russia. He lost to Murad Magomedov, who's a guy you really should keep an eye on. He's an undefeated. I think he only says 13-0. He could make his way into the UFC very, very shortly. Came off those 3 losses, moved over the beat a guy over there in Russia, and then had a couple other wins over there in the LFA, which is going to fast track into the UFC. And like I say, he was supposed to fight Zalgas, which I think Van jumped into that fight to replace him. And he was supposed to fight Dennis Bondar here. He's also a guy, if you get in close, he will kind of jump guard and take the fight to the ground. And he is dangerous a little bit in spots like that. You watch the first guy he fought over there, the Kataev fight, caught him in an armbar late on, looked pretty nasty. If in another minute he might have been able to get something out there. But I'm kind of waffling on a little bit here. Josh Chavan is going to be my pick. I've got him in a parlay. He's minus 200 still over here in the UK. The lines really haven't shifted all that much in the last week and a half. Really solid fighter. I think, like I say, if he was coming in here for full camp, I'd be blasted. I'd probably max bet minus 200, honestly. But I've got him in a parlay with someone else further on the card. I think he wins a pretty comprehensive decision here. So I've got Josh Chavan to get the first win of any fighter in 2024 in the UFC. So we're starting off with the flyweights, which is good. Because that's one of the best divisions. So Tom Nolan against Nicholas Mota. Another guy jumping in here in fairly short notice, and Nicholas Mota, who I should have lost money in this guy last time out. Like, I thought he looked absolutely terrible against Treogdon. I thought Treogdon actually fought a pretty decent fight. I thought he stayed at bay, caught him with some nice shots coming in, got some takedowns, but then he got stopped in that 3rd round and it called a no contest. I bet Nicholas Mota, terrible bet, got taken away. And like I said, this is the guy a few years ago I thought would have decent wins in the UFC. I don't think he's UFC caliber. I think he's going to get within the first 6 months. If he doesn't win this one, he might get his walking papers after this. Now, he has had some tough opposition. I think Torres and Jim Miller are tough guys to come in against, but I just think his skills haven't developed enough for my liking. I think they're feeding him to a guy here in Tom Nolan, who is very young, 6-0, coming out of Australia. It's somewhere they want to build fighters coming from, because they go back there yearly. They're going to go back there yearly, a couple of times a year probably. And they can build guys up like Tom Nolan. Now, when I watched Tom Nolan, I wasn't super impressed, but what I think he is his stature for that division is absolutely massive. He's very young, 6-0, fighting out of Brisbane, 6-0, fought in the Eternal MMA scene. Now, if you don't watch that, it's on UFC Fight Pass. It's a promotion that's run by Casey O'Neill's dad. And like I say, he's fought some okay opposition. You're not going to get the greatest opposition coming out of Australia, but he showed against Bogdan Grad. He's got massive power, massive leverage. He can hit you with the long shots and really hurt you from there. But I'm still waiting to see a little bit more from him. I think outside of him just being big for the division, I want to see more of him. So I think he beats Nicholas Mota. I think he will catch him at some point. I think the length and just like I say, his frame for the division is going to become a big thing here. So for me, I've got Tom Nolan to win that fight there. Westin Wilson against John Silva. John Silva's like a -7, 800 favourite here. I should roll. He's a guy that I've kind of known a little bit about him. Like I said, I like to keep my eye on prospects outside the UFC. And this is a guy that I knew a little bit about fighting out of the Fighting Nerds, which is the Kape camp. And they guys usually fight really well. They're really smart fighters, good in all kind of disciplines with the jiu-jitsu. Now, John's more of a striker, really solid striker, will eat you up with some leg kicks. But he can mix up things a little bit with his grappling and be pretty decent down there as well. So, Westin Wilson came in here pretty short notice in his last fight against Joannis and Brito. Brito maybe jumped in. He just doesn't look UFC caliber to me. Big for the division, like I previously mentioned with Nolan. Featherweight, like 6'1" with 73-inch reach. That's massive for this division. I think they're going to be just building like John Silva up here. I just don't think that. I think he could fight a solid pace for 15 minutes, hurt him on the outside. But I think if he wants to get the finish here, he can do. So, not a fight I looked overly into because I know a little bit about John Silva and I didn't really want to sit back and waste kind of much of my time watching Westin Wilson. And I don't want to bet a -700, -800 in this spot here either. So, John Silva for the win there for me. This is one of the best fights on the card. Farid Basharat against Taylor Lapilus, two guys I had the pleasure of watching last year in Paris. They were on the same card. Both guys I thought were fighting pretty, in my opinion, decent opposition. You had Farid Basharat against Clayton Rodriguez, and you had Taylor Lapilus against Keelan Loughran. I think Keelan Loughran will turn into be a really solid bantamweight, but that was a massive jump in experience from what he'd faced in Cage Warriors to a Taylor Lapilus. Now, if you don't know that much about Taylor Lapilus, 19-3 record, previous UFC stint was 3-1 with his only loss to Eric Perez. Really, I think he's a really solid, underrated bantamweight, and he's got some really good wins after he came out of the UFC. Fought in Aries, fought DeMarty Pena. I forgot the other guy that he faced, but he was really solid. I'm not going to be able to remember. But this guy, I think he's a really good matchup here for Farid Basharat. I'm looking forward to seeing Farid get the step up against a legit, experienced bantamweight who's been around the block, fought decent guys. Is really a tough stylistic matchup. But for me, I've been speaking about the Basharat brothers for years, and I've always said, for me, Farid was the guy you need to keep an eye on because I think he can evolve into being a really, really great fighter because I think he's very dominant across the grappling, which he showed in the last fight. With the striking as well, he can hurt you. So I think, like I say, he's a -225 favourite here. -225 to -250. That's a lot of confidence to have in this guy, but I firmly believe that he will make this jump up here against Taylor Lapilus and just do enough to win. I don't want to say all the rounds, but I think he will just do enough to kind of edge rounds with his striking, maybe mix in a takedown. Now, Lapilus has shown that he's very tough to take down, got good takedown defense. Loughran, albeit not super experienced, was going in for those takedowns, but Lapilus could see them coming from a mile out and was really stopping them, getting those takedowns against the cage. And he's just a solid fighter. There's not many bad French fighters that have ever kind of came through the UFC. You've got obviously Bautista and Cyril Alaska and whatnot. But this guy's a solid veteran, and this is a big step up, in my opinion, for Farid Basharat. And I'm really interested to see how he does in this fight here. So the pick's going to be Farid Basharat via decision. I think he's going to have some moments in this fight where he's maybe going to have to really raise his game against Lapilus because he is pretty solid. But for me, Farid Basharat is going to be the pick there. Marcus McGhee against Gaston Bolanos is up next. I mean, Marcus McGhee's been pretty solid his UFC tenure so far. You can't really take much away from him. Lined as a -350 favourite, I want to say he is right now. So, like I say, he's been lined at a pretty decent favourite against Bolanos. I don't rate Bolanos that highly, I'll be honest with you. I think that I think he lacks in a lot of areas. I think he's got a lot of deficiencies that someone like a McGee, not overly experienced with 9 fights, I think he could kind of school him in a couple of these areas. For me, McGee's shown a lot of really good technical, fundamental boxing, good striking, and we've seen that. I think his last fight was a submission, wasn't it? The first one, sorry, was a submission against Johnny Newsom, and it was the massive counter right hook on the chin of JP Bays. He's shown he's got power, really good solidified striking where he can really move out of the pocket a little bit and then catch you with a decent shot. I think he comes from Sean O'Malley, sorry. It helps him out a little bit at the MMA lab, does a little bit of work with him. Bolanos, to me, I think he can take him down. I think his striking is okay, but that Aaron Phillips fight, I didn't take a hell of a lot away from that. Got taken down like 3 or 4 times. If that's there, I think someone like McGee could obviously kind of take that to the ground and maybe school him a little bit, but I think he can strike with him a little bit as well. So for me, I'm going to pick Marcus McGee. I think that he goes to 3-0 in his UFC career. Like, he's only fought this with third fight in 6-7 months. So yeah, it's pretty serious there. I apologise about the car that's out the back there, making some noise if you can hear that. But for me, I'm going to pick Marcus McGee for the win there. Matthew Semelsberger against Preston Parsons. I think I edge Semelsberger, but I don't want to bet this fight. I really want nothing kind of to do it, because I think Preston Parsons is he's tough, he's gritty. He's got 1 win, 1 loss. He's got that win over Ivan Elder, which I think comes in to be he's 1-2, sorry, because the Daniel Rodriguez fight came in a short notice a couple of years back. But I think he's pretty solid. Not special, but I think that he can win some fights. Like you said, he won that fight against Evan Elder. Semelsberger really needs this win. He's rebounding off a couple of losses. Uros Medic, I thought he was doing all right in that one. I thought he had an opportunity to win that fight. I bet him in that one. And when he got taken out in the third, I think it was, I was like, I was pretty gutted because I thought he had an opportunity. And then he lost to Jeremiah Wells, who's a really tough stylistical matchup. And then before that, I went over Jake Matthews, which he seemed to drop him like 2 times every round in that one. Yeah, I haven't got the greatest read in this fight, honestly. I kind of lean Semelsberger. I think he is coming in here short notice. But like I said, I was watching a couple of these guys' fights and I was trying to break it down a little bit, and I just wasn't really getting a great read of who I really liked a lot of. If the line was higher in Parsons, I might be tempted to kind of take a little bit of a shot on him with that. But for me, I think I'm going to lean on the Semelsberger side and go with him in that one there. Moving on. Andrei Arlovski against Waldo Cortez-Acosta. I attempted to watch Arlovski fights. I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I still continue in 2023 as it was to waste my time watching there. Pretty boring fighter. Cortez-Acosta, 10-1, so still very young in his career as a kind of heavyweight. But what age is he? Is he mid-30s? 32. So that's young by a standard in the UFC. And like I say, he is coming off that win over Lucas Bresky. Not a super high caliber guy. Caught him with some hooks there in the first round up against the cage, put him down. Before that was his first deal against Rodrigo de Lima. I'm going to pick him to win this fight here. I think that he could win a boxing affair over 3 rounds. I think he could catch Andrei Arlovski. I don't want to be picking Andrei Arlovski in 2024 to win fights in the UFC. I just think his time is kind of past. But he is an awkward guy to face. So much experience. And he is decent across his boxing and stuff like that. I think he has slowed down a little bit. But for me, I'm going to pick Waldo Cortez-Acosta. Middleweight division next, we've got Phil Hawes against Brunno Ferreira. And I am going to go back to the well and picking Phil Hawes again. And I said, I don't know why I do it, because I believe in the skills of this guy, and I have done for many years. But he's obviously got that serious deficiency with his chin where he can get hit and just go to sleep. Now, in saying that, his losses are to really super solid guys, but I think he can lose to a lot of guys in this division, even if they weren't that great, because his chin is so bad. If he was to get hit with a shot, I think he could easily do the stanky leg and be knocked out looking and wake up looking at the lights. Chris Curtis, Roman Dolidze, Ikram Alaskerov, they're all his losses and they're all stoppages. And when you look on the Brunno Ferreira side, I think he's got 10 wins, 7 of those by knockout and 2 by submission. this guy can knock your block off. We've seen that in the Gregory Rodriguez fight, but we also seen that he can get taken out by strikes as well. I'm not fully confident in his chin either, from what I seen last time against Ruziboev. So if Phil Hawes, I've said this sometimes, if he can fight to just not going a little bit gung-ho, fight, really kind of working his way into a fight, I think that he can mix in takedowns. I think he's got really good striking. I think he's got big power. Don't think he's got the greatest gas tank, but if he can get off to a quick start, win rounds, I think he's a hard guy to face, but that chin is always going to be there to be cracked. And I can see why this is a kind of pick and fight with a slight underdog lean on the Hawes side. And I said to myself after I picked him against Alaskerov, I thought he started off okay in that fight, but obviously Alaskerov has got some really decent striking, puts his shots together well, and can hurt you, and that's what he did there. I think if he doesn't get caught in this first round, I think he can work his way into the fight here and win rounds through his wrestling, his cage grappling, pushing against the cage, clinching up, getting takedowns through there, and I think his striking's on the par with that. He can land some decent shots on Bruno Ferreira. So I'm going back to the well with Phil Hawes. Probably shouldn't, but whether I bet this, I'm trying to be a little bit more picky this year with underdog bets. If it was a bigger number, so the plus 100 I can get, maybe a plus 125, I think I'll probably in on that. But as a pick, I'm going to pick Phil Hawes for the W here. Ricky Simon against Mario Bautista. Great fight. Really looking forward to this. One of the best fights on the card. Two young upstarts young upstarts. Are 30 years old, 30, 31 years old. But still two guys fairly young for the division with a lot of experience in the UFC. And I came into this one, I thought I quite liked the side of Bautista. And then when I went into it, I think that Ricky Simon is just going to do a little bit more. If he doesn't get hit with some big shots and compromised a little bit, I think he can win this fight. I don't want to say comfortably, but I think he can out-grapple Mario Bautista. And I remember coming into the fight here looking, and I saw that W against Damon Blackshear, but I kind of forgot the fight, how it went down. And when I'm back and watched it, I actually think that it was a close fight. I thought Damon Blackshear did enough to win that fight, in all honesty. Now, he is running a pretty big win streak in this division, as Bautista, but now he's making a bigger step up against better guys in the division. Wins over Blackshear, win over Canete, Benito Lopez, Brian Kelleher, JP, and that's nothing really to write home about outside of the Blackshear one, who I think is a tough style matchup for a lot of people. He's got a lot of skills and very dangerous. Where someone like Ricky Simon has been fighting some good caliber opposition. Jack Shore, Aston Sau's a tough vet. Brian Kelleher is another guy that he beat. Before that, lost to Yadong Song, who just caught him with a big shot, and that happens. Yadong's got a lot of power for this division. How we see this fight going down, that style, that kind of jerky style, Ricky Simon in and out, I think he will be a little bit hard to kind of predict when he's going to get these takedowns, and I think he will have success with the takedowns. I think he will have some minutes down there, but I do think Bautista will be dangerous off his back. Will look for submissions to blast back to his feet and get the fight in the feet, which I think he probably is a cleaner striker than what Ricky Simon is. I think he's maybe a little bit more dangerous and maybe has more power. So that's where I think he will look to work Ricky Simon here. I just think he's going to get takedowns here, and this is a big jump from what he's faced, but I do think it is the right time for him to be making this jump into that top 15 of the bantamweight division. But I am going to lean on the Ricky Simon side to win via a decision in that one there. Jim Miller against Gabriel Benitez. Always love watching Jim Miller fight. I feel like I've been watching this guy for like half my life in the UFC, which I probably have, honestly. Unbelievable fight. Actually, I'm going to have a look. When was his first UFC fight? This is crazy. For the amount of time I've been watching the sport, it's just UFC all down the side here on Topology. Right, so where are we? UFC 89, 2008. He's entering year number 16 in the UFC. That is incredible. That's unbelievable. And he's still fighting here. And he wants on that UFC 300 card that's coming up in March or April, whatever month it might be. And if he can come out here fairly unscathed, then I think that he will get that opportunity. But he's a guy, obviously, he's very old for UFC standards. He's been around a long time, took a lot of damage, a lot of miles on the clock, but he is super, super dangerous at any time of the fight. Now, I really like him early on. He's got a lot of really good skills, good jab, some fairly decent striking, great low kick, can disable guys with that. And obviously, we've seen throughout the years his submission grappling being really, really, really good. And like I say, he's coming off a win over Jesse Butler. That's nothing to really write home about. Before that, he lost to Alexander Hernandez. But when you look at this matchup here, Benitez, to me, he's got some things there that can really hurt you. Obviously, those leg kicks, like I just mentioned with Jim Miller, that is his biggest skill, is he can disable you with those leg kicks, and he's got some of the best leg kicks in the UFC and has done for many years. But I think that Jim Miller can beat him here. I think that Jim, if he avoids getting hurt and beat up and kind of not on the back foot early, I think he can win a couple of rounds. I think over 1.5 is a bet I quite like here, because I think Benitez is a tough guy to really get out of there, even though we have seen him taken out by Billy Quarantillo and David Onama. Big hit on Onama, and the pressure striking of Quarantillo. He is coming off a win over Charlie Ontiveros, like a year and a half out, pretty much. I'm going to pick Jim Miller, and he's actually going to be my dog of the week. I think that if you can still get underdog odds on him, I think that he's worth a bet. I haven't bet him yet. I am thinking of it, because it's not fight week yet. The lines could go kind of either way. If he was to go to like minus 120, then I wouldn't bet. If he was to go to plus 120, then I think I absolutely would bet it. But I still might bet it at plus 100. Jim Miller is going to be the pick there in that one, and hopefully comes out here unscathed and gets on like UFC 300, because that would be pretty something special to be in 100, 200, 300. That's something special. Co-main event in the flyweight division, we've got the rematch between Matheus Nicolau against Manel Kape. And first fight between these two was pretty interesting, very close. At the time, I thought Nicolau kind of did enough to win. Rewatching it back, probably not. I mean, he started off okay in that first round, won that first round pretty comprehensively, but then he really started to, you've seen the aggressiveness of Manel Kape really come into its own in that second round. Super aggressive, landed an uppercut, which really put Nicolau on the back foot for pretty much the majority of the fight afterwards. Definitely lost that second round, got hurt with those shots, and he was picking his shots well, was Manel Kape. I always thought he was 1 or 2 strikes away from really finishing that fight. Third round, very close. Kape was getting some shots off, but I thought Nicolau initially early on in that round was landing some decent shots, popping the head back of Manel Kape. But again, this was Manel Kape. I think he was jumping in here on short notice, coming off that loss to Pantoja. I mean, you're fighting against, your first fight in UFC is against the current UFC champion, and then a really good prospect in Matheus Nicolau. They really elevated this guy highly and gave him tough fights initially. But since that fight, since that loss, to Nicolau, he's been beating the guys that he should beat comprehensively. Audie Osborne knocked him out easily. Zumagulov caught him there. He's a top 15 kind of caliber guy, tough guy to face, got him out of there. David Dvorak, he's got some serious durability, has David Dvorak. He's taken a lot of shots in the UFC and lived to kind of tell the tale in some of them. And then Felipe Santos, who I think is going to turn into be a really good flyweight going forward. He was supposed to fight Kai Kara France in that one there, but he's really turned himself into the fighter I thought he could be when he came into the UFC. I think that he's potentially a champion, honestly. I think he is very, very good, very dangerous, can grapple a little bit, got a little bit of takedown defense, but massive power, good striking. But I can't see him sitting back. Sometimes he did a little bit of that in the Nicolau fight. He sat back a little bit too much for my liking, and probably give Nicolau a little bit too much encouragement in that fight. And I bet Matheus Nicolau in that fight, and I was really happy to cash that plus 125. Now you can probably get him for plus 200, and I'm firmly in the camp of Manel Kape. I've got him parlayed up with Josh Van in the first fight of the night. I think you can get him for like minus 225 still. Manel Kape in 2024, I think there's still value on that number, honestly. I think I feel like he's going to take out Matheus Nicolau in this fight. Now, the number of Matheus Nicolau is big. But we've seen that this guy, he's coming off a KO loss to Brendan Royval, who fought for the title. Let's not get out there. He's beat Dvorak, he beat Matt Schnell. He is a really solid, all-around good fighter. I just think he's fighting a better Manel Kape than we've seen in the first fight. And I think minus 225, I actually think it's justified. Honestly, I think that the line could be a little bit higher. So like I say, I parlayed Manel Kape, I got minus 200. Josh Van, I think it was minus 210 and minus 200 between the both of them for plus 125. Got a couple of units down on that. So that was my first bet of 2024. I actually think he knocks out Matheus Nicolau here. So Manel Kape to win via knockout in that one there. And the rematch, the main event of the night, we've got Magomed Ankalaev against the always entertaining in some way Johnny Walker. I want to say Ankalaev's going to win this fight pretty easily because I think he's got overall as a fighter, I think he's better pretty much in a lot of different things. Obviously, Johnny Walker is super dangerous. He's big, athletic, throws a lot of funky stuff. But I still think that Johnny Walker in that last fight, like when he gets aggressive, I think all it takes is one shot and you can break someone like an Ankalaev personally. I still think there are some things in his game people have been calling this guy the champion and waiting for a long time. And I think that he could be, obviously, he fights to a high standard, but I still think he's a little bit breakable. And someone like Johnny Walker, in my opinion, is always a little bit live because he's just crazy. And big power, all it takes is one shot and it can change it. But looking at this fight, if you're looking at just the fight overall, you're going to lean on the Ankalaev side. And there is bad blood in this one here. And the last time we seen bad blood was kind of Kutalaba, and they rematched, then he took him out there. I don't think this is going to be much different here, honestly. And he will want this win coming off those two draws to Jan Blachowicz, where his legs got beat up badly in that fight, could barely walk. And then obviously the last fight against Johnny Walker. Personally, I would love to see Johnny Walker come out here and catch him, because I think that it would be fantastic to see Johnny Walker just, I don't know, he's a funny guy to watch. He's kind of changed up his style a little bit to where he was gung-ho, everything in his UFC debut and first few fights, then went to SBG, and they've kind of tamed him down a little bit, which I think's not been great. But sometimes he does show that, just that beast inside him where he can hurt you. Like I say, I just think that Ankalaev's just a better fighter here, so I'm going to lean Magomed Ankalaev, but I'll be cheering on Johnny Walker for the win in that one there. So, I'll put these banners across the bottom here. My favourite plays are UFC Vegas 84, Manel Kape, Josh Van, Josh Miller, with my dog of the week being Jim Miller. I think that Jim is, if you can still get dog odds on him, I think he will fight for your money and will be live throughout that fight. But I quite like the over 1.5 in that as well. Just going to jump in. I've got a few comments there that I'm going to go in and say hello. Dixon Sider, my man, I hope you're very well. Happy New Year. Looking forward to seeing some of your stuff this year. I'll be keeping an eye on it, brother. Don't worry about that. I'm a real OG. I'm a real guy now in this one. There's a lot of guys about. Try to bring on guests if you can. I'm sure Will say yes yet. You know what? It's something I've always wanted to do. So that might be something I might do in my Thursday show. I'll get someone on just to talk a little bit. There's a lot of guys out there that I've not did a hell of a lot of shows with other people. I've did Big Steve, obviously Dan from Half the Battle, Clint. I need to get back on with Clint. We've been talking about that for a minute. Lucrative MMA is a guy that I want to chop up some fight with. Dan, Tom, Liam, whoever there is that will have me that wants to talk fights, I'd love to speak to the guys, and I watch a lot of their stuff when I get the opportunity, especially at work. I'll have the earphones in, I'm going. So, yeah, something I might do, Dixon. I'd like to get yourself on if you'd ever come on. So, greetings from Greece. Hope you're well, mister. That's a long place out there, a really nice place this time of year. Well, I heard that when you moved houses, you hired Joshua Van, the affordable moving man, to help you. Moyes Audio, what's up, my brother? Happy New Year. 4-day resolution. Love Simon in this fight from Chino there. So yeah, guys, that is my picks for UFC Vegas 84. my picks for UFC, is it 297? 297 will be out next Sunday. I'll probably do a live stream for that as well. Until then, guys, enjoy the fights when they come around next week. I'm looking forward to the fights being back. It's been I think I'm kind of 3 weeks. I thought I'd be okay. 4 weeks is probably a little bit long. But yeah, until next time, guys, throw a like in the video if you can, and take care. And we'll speak to you all very, very soon. All the best. Peace.